The waterfall here is for a shorter essay and symbolic of piddle-down economics. This is how it was supposed to work after it all, right? Well, we've seen a bit of a drought, so to speak, from the very beginning of that mess. More on that in another essay. I would estimate, based on human behavior, that the end of the world was invented within about 30 days of the invention of the first religion. Remember that in speaking of influence operations, the term profit is not necessarily financial. Implanting an idea can be the goal. Profit is in the eye of the beholder. Many are not working for overt financial profit, but for influence, power, or control. Recently, my social media feed has been flooded with doom-laden titles and thumbnails. Final warnings. The end is coming soon. This is planned. There is nothing you can do, and so forth.
He said there's a storm coming in.
I presume I am seeing these because the algorithm has been getting clicks and responses to this sort of content, and I can only say that I must not be the target audience. So I started to wonder, who is the target audience? In previous essays, I've talked about how social media can amplify foreign influence operations. This is one form of what it looks like. I always revisit the concept of the 3 basic kinds of truth in these essays, because each stands as important to understanding the world around us. There is personal truth, what we accept regardless of evidence. There is political truth, what benefits others when we accept it regardless of evidence. And objective truth, what is true regardless of what we want to or are told to believe. In the description for this essay, I have linked Neil deGrasse Tyson's MasterClass on scientific thinking. It's not a sponsorship, it's just an invaluable tool for reasoned exploration of the world. I am overlapping the content of multiple channels here. All have similar messages and meanings. Let's examine the messages and the meanings. What is unclear is whether the message is primarily domestic or driven by foreign agendas. Large parts of it amplify foreign intelligence material through social media. Foreign influence operations aim to gain a domestic foothold. Once an idea gains traction locally, it gains perceived credibility. Social media dramatically simplifies this process, allowing foreign agents to use AI-driven bot accounts, connect with target stooges domestically. These bots use American-sounding names and language, making the messaging more palatable. They're also adept at bringing like-minded individuals together, something much harder to achieve with physical operatives. These operations promote political truths, often misrepresenting or outright fabricating ideas designed to benefit those pushing the messages. Unlike manipulations targeting right-wing enthusiasts for authoritarianism, these campaigns seemed aimed at the middle and upper classes. One prominent theme is the notion that the American Empire is dying. Sometimes this is paired with the claim that the British Empire has been dying for over a century. But if Britain's decline has spanned a century, the imminent doom doesn't seem as, imminent. Perhaps neither statement is true, but they serve as convenient trains of thought to support an underlying political truth, and set up a psychological manipulation as well. The word empire we'll get to later, especially discussing a partner idea to this one, identifying where power and influence allegedly lie and who benefits from these narratives. Another common theme is that this is all beyond control, that people with real power and influence and money control everything. The message is known as elite fatalism, a propaganda tool meant to foster resignation. So you might as well just relax and accept your fate.
Resistance is futile.
This narrative promotes the political truth that individuals are helpless. It's a simple, matter-of-fact statement designed to demoralize and encourage passive resignation. While some propaganda stokes anger and resentment, this aims to make the audience just give up. This idea that we cannot afford influence abroad anymore slides neatly into narratives like America First, which was historically linked to German intelligence operations around the time of the Nazi Party. However, this messaging is subtler. It argues that America should pull back from global intelligence and conflicts for financial reasons. This political truth suggests that involvement in Ukraine or Israel or anywhere else undermines American stability. Yet our adversaries find it more expensive and less effective to operate globally when we're actively countering their influence. Encouraging the U.S. to withdraw makes their work easier and less expensive. A recurring theme in these messages is the claim that significant world-altering events are imminent, happening very soon. The tactic plays heavily on psychological manipulation as the urgency creates a heightened sense of anxiety for the audience. Anxiety, in turn, can push people toward impulsive responses, emotional engagement, or even blind acceptance of the narrative being presented. Interestingly, these same messages sometimes interject that the British Empire has been dying for over a century. While this observation undermines the immediacy of the doom narrative, it may serve another purpose. Spanning across multiple pieces of content, this contradiction can foster a sense of cognitive dissonance. The audience is left wrestling with the two incompatible ideas, an urgent and inevitable collapse alongside a historic example of a long, slow decline. Psychologically, this dissonance can amplify feelings of confusion, discomfort, and anxiety. In the absence of clear answers or actionable solutions, such tactics push the audience further towards helplessness. It's a deliberate method of steering people into resignation, priming them to accept the next step of the messaging. Building on the sense of urgency and helplessness, this theme reinforces the earlier messages. Resistance is a waste of time and money and resources. The outcome is inevitable. Inevitable. It further promotes the idea that opposing foreign adversaries or elite agendas is pointless. The narratives omit key strengths and opportunities where resistance has worked or could work, focusing on challenges to demoralize the audience further. Here's where we identify who benefits from these political truths. These channels typically promote the BRICS nations: Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa. China, in particular, is the recurring hero. China is leading the new world economic order. China is uniting the world in ways America once did. China is displacing America on the global stage. These narratives omit China's significant internal challenges: financial crises, empty cities, and underutilized infrastructure, and more. Often, the other nations are not even mentioned at all, or only in terms that make it seem like, well, others are recognizing China's superiority in these matters. China's empire aligns more closely with traditional notions of empire than America's. Most Americans and Europeans don't view the U.S. as an empire, and using this word also seems to point to Chinese influence, making the narrative feel foreign, yet still persuasive. The best way to sell a lie, a political truth, is to wrap it with distorted truths, misrepresentations, and incomplete information. These channels excel at that. While some elements align with isolationist America First messaging, this feels less fervent and more adversarial, as though urging America to simply step aside and let others take the lead. Elite fatalism amplifies the notion that middle-class individuals are powerless against the oligarchs. Whether this is part of the messaging that originates domestically or abroad is less important than its effectiveness in fostering resignation. The isolationist angle serves dual purposes. It supports America First ideals while suggesting that wars, like in Ukraine, are too costly, ignoring the broader implications of abandoning allies and abandoning principles. Ultimately, the hero of these stories is always China, depicted as the inevitable successor to America. This underscores the narrative's alignment with Chinese interests. It doesn't matter if this content is produced directly by Chinese operatives or by individuals who have been co-opted by these ideas, stooges, as it were. The messaging serves the same ends, amplifying Chinese influence. The goal is to plant ideas in the American psyche, and the engagement of such content suggests some level of success. The production quality targets well-educated, sophisticated audiences, but the core messages hold no more truth than a cardboard sign held by someone standing on the street corner. In the end, these narratives serve Chinese interests, subtly shaping perceptions and undermining resistance. The question isn't whether this messaging exists. It clearly does. The question is whether we'll recognize it and counter it, or at least ignore it.